Greetings, Mindcrafters, and welcome to another exciting Mindcraft episode. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am super stoked to have this chat with you about busting through your own glass ceiling. And it's interesting because I like to talk about things on the channel that I'm also doing myself, revisiting or interested in or researching or whatever, right? I guess that's kind of all of the above. And so I'm recently inspired by the book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And it was referred to me from my mastermind group, someone in my mastermind group a couple of months ago, or a month and a half ago, I don't know. But I've been immersed in it ever since. And it's so good. And it's I currently have my side hustle, my Mindcraft side hustle. But it's not just about business. It's about busting through your own glass ceiling, period, with your limiting beliefs about love, about business, about finances, just reaching that certain traveling, whatever, the house, to have kids, whatever. It's about all of it and busting through your own glass ceiling. And so what I wanted to talk about starting out is really what that means. So Gay Hendricks refers to it as the upper limit problem, which is the glass ceiling. And so what he talks about is that we have a tendency as humans, and obviously we're all wired differently, so it'll be, this may be, more true for some than others, depending on what your whole childhood was like, your wiring and such. But we've all got like a little bit of it. And so when we're starting to feel too good, things are going too well at work or in a relationship or whatever, even if we allow ourselves to feel good for a certain amount of time, eventually, often, we'll say, okay, well, that's enough feeling good, and we revert back to our set point. We may even self-sabotage. And there are all kinds of ways to self-sabotage, which we'll get to a little bit. But first of all, I want to talk about the different zones. And so he talks about how there are 4 zones. Where we want to reside in is a zone of genius. That's our flow zone. So we'll start down here. Gay says that there's a zone of incompetence. We tend to waste a lot of it, lots of life minutes in the zone of incompetence, because this means that this is an area, a zone, a place, I guess you should say, of, where we're not good at whatever it is. Like for me, it would be putting together things. When I put together things back in the day, actually my husband took over rather quickly, so that I was kind of fired from that whole job of putting toys together and things like that. There are going to be parts left over. It's just bad. So when it's something that's not in your wheelhouse, then ask other people to do it. If you can afford to hire somebody else to do it, even the better. But to not waste life minutes, even if you eventually get there, the amount of take it, a million times more, life minutes than somebody who's good at it. So he says, don't do that if you can possibly help it. So that's the zone of incompetence. The zone of competence is things we're good enough at. Let's say we're good enough at, I don't know, fixing small leaks, like small things in the sink. But like, why would you do that when there's plumbers? If you can afford it, money can be an issue. But he says how it's much better to also get other people to do that if you're sort of okay at it, but they're great at it. It doesn't make any sense to reside in that place. It's wasting a lot of our creative energy, because we only have so much attention we can give something in a day. It's 100%, right? So if we're splintering it off to things we're not any good at all, but getting by, reading a manual 76 times, then okay, we're wasting life minutes. If you continue to do it with things you can have other people do who are better at it, same thing. And then we get to, zone of incompetence, zone of competence, zone of excellence. This actually surprised me, because you'd think you'd want to reside there longer, but he says this can actually be a trap. So now the zone of excellence is where you want to be for a while. You might be even making a lot of money at it. You might be really relatively happy at it. It's lucrative. You're doing your thing. And I'm thinking, like, for me, I love teaching. I love being on the stage. It's all the same. It's educating, whether it's in a classroom or it's in front of lots of people in an auditorium. That whole thing. But he said, but staying in your zone of excellence is good. Again, you're happy. You're moving around. You're making money. But he says, eventually, if you kind of stay there, you can also get stuck and prevented from entering your zone of genius, which is the flow zone. So he's talking about, and really the flow zone is an altered state of consciousness, actually, right? Because Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi did a lot of work on that. He's actually the flow guy. So we'll sip of tea here. He's actually the flow guy, and I'm a huge fan of him. So he talks about doing that thing that you love to do, like you're riding on high octane passion, kind of like if your thing was, you know, writing or playing in a band or making, you know, writing music yourself, and then you go in the garage to get away from everybody, or down in the basement or wherever you go, in the park or something, and all of a sudden you've been writing all day and you've completely lost track of time, or you've been in the garage playing guitar, you completely lost track of time, or whatever it is that just fills you up and over the top. And he says that, you know, that's your high driven passion. And Mihaly would say, you lose track of time. You also lose track of yourself in a sense, but not in a codependent, way, in a healthy way, where you feel connected to the universe. You feel at one with your writing. You feel at one with your music making. You feel at one with your, you know, like Michael Phelps swimming, whatever. And so that zone of genius, we've all got it. And Gay Hendricks says it. We all have it in us. It's a matter of tuning into it. Sounds very Wayne Dyer, to tune into the zone of genius. So he said, actually, the zone of excellence, it's tempting to stay there because you're happy, you know, you're happy, and you're making money, but you're not tapping into that altered state of consciousness, which is your genius zone. So that's the big thing. Okay, so there's some barriers to this, and I found this enormously interesting, because we've talked about it a lot in other areas in different episodes, because his very first one, there's four, he says hidden barriers, because we're not aware of them, right? Hidden barriers to busting through your own glass ceiling and reaching your zone of genius. And again, this isn't just with money. He does talk about that a lot, but he also talks about with love. We can sabotage that. Obviously, we think we know that, right? Out in the world, we can sabotage that. This is feeling too good. This is too good to be true. So why don't I start an argument type thing, or even further self-sabotage? And if you're so afraid to be happy for too long, you mess it up before it even gets going, that sort of thing. Okay, so barriers. The first one is feeling that we are fundamentally flawed. When I read that, I'm like, oh my God, because I've been talking about this for years. I've done so much work on myself. And I'm thinking, wow, it comes right back. Just like most of what we talk about, it comes right back to knowing your value. Because without knowing our value, knowing our worth, feeling that original worthiness, you know, right there, right? Knowing it and feeling it is very difficult, you know, next to impossible, if not impossible, to take care of itself. We don't value. We can't give what we don't have. So we can't give love if we don't love ourselves. You know how it goes. So I found it amazing that his very first one is feeling fundamentally flawed. This is what keeps us from our zone of genius, which is therefore saying it keeps us from being successful. It keeps us from fulfilling our authentic purpose, that one thing we were put on this earth to do. Because we don't feel our value, we don't feel we deserve it, right? And we have to feel we deserve it for more stuff to come, and to feel comfortable with that. Let's just say it's finances, because that's an easy example. And also the relationships one is also an easy example. To feel that we are worthy of, let's just make it extreme, worthy of making $1 million, worthy of having the freedom that comes along with being an entrepreneur, you know, worthy of this awesome partner that the sun rises, you know, the sun rises and sets on you, and that, you know, it's just so good. If we don't feel valuable, if we don't know our own value, that ain't gonna happen. It just isn't. And then the second one is disloyalty and abandonment. I found all of these interesting too. So the disloyalty and abandonment one means that that if we're successful, we're kind of like leaving somebody behind, or if we when we become successful, even when we become successful, we feel that maybe we still didn't meet the expectations of our parents or somebody, whoever that person is, maybe in a that you didn't meet the expectations of. And it's just amazing. And I've also had to tell you, since I've been reading this book, I've been listening to Gay Hendricks' podcast, and I love how he talks just like he writes in the book, and he talks about the different stories, and even more stories than I've already read. I'm about halfway through, I'd say. And he also writes another one about the zone of genius too. I haven't gotten to that one yet, but I would strongly encourage reading them. Okay, so we have number one, feeling fundamentally flawed. Two, disloyalty and abandonment. And then the third one, this really struck me too. The hidden barrier, the third one, believing that more success is a bigger burden. So this is a biggie. Think how this could just like dig a knife or a wrench or something into your success and your ability to blow through the glass ceiling. And for me, I think of Willy Wonka. If you've seen that, the original movie where you just like when Charlie gives back the everlasting gobstopper and they blow through the glass everywhere and up they go. One big preventer to that is believing that more success will be a burden. So, and he talks in the book about people who are actually already successful. So it's not, rarely in life does it exist, right? Where there's polarized, like, you know, you're good at this and you're terrible at this, or rarely is it, always nothing, everything, no one. It's just not like that. So people can be successful and still have limiting beliefs going on. Of course they can. So maybe they get just so successful, and then their brain tells them, their unconscious is telling them, oh, that's enough. This is what you deserve. You deserve this, but no more. And that also you'll be a bigger burden. And he gets into a couple of stories that really struck me because I really feel like I've worked through, I've done quite a lot of work on myself, and I've worked, and feel very free and liberated from a lot of the harmful messages that were said to me young. And one of the biggies was wishing I wasn't born. My own mother, said that, you should have been an abortion, blah, blah, blah. It's too, blah. I'm only saying that to potentially help other people. I am past it, and I wish her the best and go with God and all that stuff. But I have to share it, I have to share it with you, or I feel like I want to share it with you, so that you can really see the tie-in here, and that how you can really get on the other side of it. You can really, when you do the work, you can really get on the other side of it. And one other thing, I should plug this, that also helped me with that, is reading the book Toxic Parents by Susan Forward. She does some amazing, amazing work with adult children who have survived the abuse of either being raised by or having a narcissist in the family. So she does a lot with that. So there are some case studies in there about people who were born like myself, being committed or convicted of the crime of being born, I guess is the best way to say it. Obviously, this isn't your fault, but when you have that situation, somebody's born into this world, as an unwanted pregnancy, or all kinds of situations. There's all teenagers, all kind of different situations, right? That the baby picks up on all that stuff, and they are born feeling like a burden. And so Gay Hendricks, just like Susan Forward talks about this in her book, and how people they grow up with these limiting beliefs, and we are big self-sabotagers, because when you hear, and there are lots of other harmful messages. Obviously, I'm just staying with this one because it's so extreme, and it's a good example. When we're told that and feel that we're born into this world, convicted of this crime of being born and feeling like a burden, we kind of try to rub ourselves out. And one way to do that is financially, and this stuff's unconscious. It's just like, I'm gonna confirm that, I'm gonna show myself, my unconscious, that that's right, I'm not supposed to be here, I'm not valuable, or I'm not worthy. And then just maybe you don't even go bankrupt, but you're not ever able to save money because you keep blowing it on stuff because your unconscious is trying to rub you out. Well, there's all different ways to do that, and Gay Hendricks taps into that also, saying that this believing, if I'm like, the more success I have, the more burdensome I am, and it all starts to self-sabotage, and we return to what he calls the set point. I think he also calls it I call it the set point. He calls it the thermostat. So you're feeling too good. You might be worth this much, but you're not worth that much. Here we go. We're going to come back where we feel comfortable, where we are in a state of scarcity, maybe, and or maybe successful, but at this level. And so he talks a lot about that. Okay, so far, the hidden barriers we have are feeling fundamentally flawed. 2, disloyalty and abandonment. 3, believing that more success is a bigger burden. And then lastly, the crime of outshining. That's another one. Also amazing because often, and I think he refers to this also as the like the burden of the gifted child or the gifted child curse or something like that. I forget the exact words, I'm paraphrasing. But a lot of times, even small children pick up innocent, little, cute, little 6 or 7 year old children are gifted with doing, maybe it's, they're gifted with their intelligence and there obviously there's lots of ways to be intelligent. I don't want to just mean IQ. I'm not actually a huge fan of standardized tests. Lots of ways to be intelligent. Let's say they're a piano prodigy or they're blowing through their age level for school and they're like 2 or 3 grades ahead. Or it's artwork, or they're doing phenomenal artwork that's just obviously talent that fell from the clouds, that kind of thing. And even little kids will pick up on, ooh, reel it in, don't outshine, when the others start to look, oh, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that. And so that's or the dilemma of the gifted child or whatever. But we as grown-ups can also bring it back to our childhood, especially if there was a sibling who was labeled, was the golden child, let's say, and they were the golden child growing up the whole time, and then along comes you, and you're blowing it up in the entrepreneurial world and making all kinds of money, or you're an artist. Those could overlap, obviously. You're an artist and you're blowing it up that way, or you're doing whatever you're doing, and you're shining. You're a shining star that the glare is so great that they just want to shut that stuff down. And the person who's doing the shining is so used to being kept in the shadows from their golden child, sibling or whatever, that they remember this is unconscious stuff that we naturally reel it in and self-sabotage so that we kind of stay in our lane, sort of thing. And so anyway, this is just a little bit of a snippet from Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap. And I can't tell you how much this has helped me. As you know, I love educating, and I love it, whether that's the classroom, whether that's doing workshops, for faculty, staff, or out in the business world or whatever. I love moving around and educating people on positivity and proactive mind health and all things. Honestly, I feel like if any of what I'm doing out there in the educate, flying around the stage or whatever, helps people to feel a little bit lighter, and ideally to love their lives. That's my main goal. Baby steps, right? Little lighter, happier, more optimistic, learning that, seeing their value, and in the end, absolutely loving this gift of life that we have, and loving their life minutes and spending them like cash. Well, hey, if I do that with one person, I feel like my, was worth it, kind of thing. And so busting through that glass ceiling with my Mindcraft business is what I'm working through the limiting beliefs too. Every time I think I get challenged again. And actually Jake at our mastermind group said this, and that knocked me over like a brick too, because we can think we've passed all the quizzes. We can think we've passed the quizzes for this specific thing, right? The life keeps giving us quizzes till we pass them and get 100 when we fully get the lesson. We can think we get it, and then Jake explained it, and he's exactly right, that was okay. You passed it at this level. Now you're here and becoming successful in your business or in your love relationship or with whatever you're trying to do. And at this level, though, the upper limit problem is kicking itself back in, because when we start to feel too good, that upper limit problem that cord is tripped. And there it is to reel us back in. And so Gay Hendricks also talks a lot about his wife, Kathleen. I think he calls her Katie, though, that they've realized, he's been with her for like 40 years, married with her for 40 years or something, how they realized, and this was a relationship example, they haven't really had any kind of a decent meaning, like more than just like I wanted this sulk, and I don't know. He said they have not argued literally since the writing of the book, which at that time was 12 years, because they realize that it is possible to feel happy as close to all the time as you can, because we just have to realize, obviously life's curveballs are going to happen and things like that, but we're going to manage them much more efficiently, effectively, and with happiness and joy wrapping around things when we're aware of this thing he calls the upper limit problem. Because once we're aware of it, we can recognize, even if it's small little bits of self-sabotage that are happening, when we can get good at it, like anything we practice we get better at, right? Then we can nip them and redirect. Again, whether it's a love relationship or it's a business, or you're not an entrepreneur but you're in your workplace and moving up, or whatever it is. This book has been amazing, and it all comes down to self-value. Just, it all does, all of it. We cannot give what we don't have, and we can certainly not be successful. Oprah says it too. Wayne Dyer says it. The great ones are all saying it. Without knowing our value, you got to go right back and do the work and start there before you do anything else. So inspiration again came from Gay Hendricks, who wrote The Big Leap. And that's it. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off. And have a good day. Have a mindful day. Have a prosperous day. And bust through your own glass ceiling.